Thank you and welcome to our session today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll talk about a few slides and then we'll get into a demo of the product. I'm going to here. So we're going to go through our electronic payment processing today. Just a little agenda, a little bit about Blue Moon and some of the key differences between us and other options that you may have for electronic payments. And then we'll take a look at the product itself and then have some time for Q&A. So Blue Moon has been in business for over 30 years, and we have been developing products in the Microsoft Dynamics GP channel since 1994. We've recently begun taking our products into the other platforms such as 365 BC, F&O, and also into the Acumatica ERP. We have also recently acquired a suite of products from Encore Business Solutions that were primarily for Dynamics GP, but those are also in the process of being transitioned into the other ERPs based on customer requests and needs within the product. We do have over 2,000 customers using our products today, and we also find, as you'll see today, that many of our products are sort of companion products to each other. So that's why we've chosen today in the area of electronic payments to take a look at really two of our products, which are the electronic payment processing and the customer invoice portal. What's different about us when we are, put up against, I guess, other ISVs and other options that you might have is that there is no software license cost for our solution, just the fees that you would have from your payment processor and or gateway. We're also fully embedded right within the ERP or right within the Dynamics GP and Business Central products so that you have a seamless experience and you and your users, or if you're a partner, it's from the partner perspective, your user, you have a seamless experience within the software. And also the flexibility of working with any payment processor or gateway that you might have, so that you can continue to have those relationships that you have and continue to use our product. So the two products we're going to look at today are the electronic payment processing and the customer invoice portal. And those give you the ability to provide, in the payment side, the streamlined and secure customer credit card processing. Also, the ability to store multiple credit cards, and there's a variety of features here. The important part is that you have that ability to go in and process the credit cards, also to be able to pre-authorize a sales order, for example, and then capture the credit card upon invoice. And then also, if someone would like to pay you with a credit card after that invoice is posted, maybe as a collection method or something like that, you'd also be able to put in that transaction directly into the cash receipt side and process a payment against an already posted invoice. There's also a number of additional tools and inquiries so that you can reconcile your credit cards easily, look at historical documents related to the credit card payments against them, and also then have a full portal with the credit card processor to also get any questions and additional information out of the system. What you'll also see as we go into the demo is that we've added additional functionality into the Dynamics GP and BC environments so that if you needed to look at, for example, not just at a credit card decline, but why did that credit card decline? You can get all of that information as well. And that gives you the ability to dispute, to settle disputes quickly and also convey to your customer if there is an issue with a credit card. So not only is it credit cards, but also it is ACH processing. So if you are unsure whether you want to have your customers be able to go in and use credit cards, you can also use the ACH function as well. The customer invoice portal does provide electronic invoicing, presentment, and processing. So let's say you did say, well, I like the idea of electronic processing, but I don't want anything to be done with that in my back office accounting system. I'd like the customer to just, if they want to pay their invoice electronically, they can do it themselves in a portal. Well, this gives you the ability to design, go ahead and design your invoice, electronically deliver that invoice to the customer. But along with that would be a link for them to go out to a portal that's been configured for you and your company and give you the ability to have those customers make their own payments. You're also able to make a payment for them from the portal and send that through the system. So you don't need to have any credit card processing software in your accounting system if you don't want to. So this can provide a really important option for you if you're more comfortable having that credit card information and processing one step removed from your internal systems. So the next thing I'd like to do is show this to you. So I'm just going to exit out of the presentation, and we're going to go into the Dynamics GP system. So this is my Dynamics GP system, and you are seeing the main window here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at both of the electronic payment processing products as well as the customer invoice portal. Now for today's demo, I am going to be in Dynamics GP, and everything that I'm showing you here is also available in the Dynamics BC system. And the customer invoice portal that I'm going to show you will be exactly the same and looks the exact same as it would in either ERP system. So the first thing I'd like to look at is the electronic payment process. So when you start a sales order in your system, you have the ability to tie a credit card to an order right at the time of creating the order and the start of that process. So as I create the customer order here, I'm going to be able to put that into a batch. And then when I put the information in, I can also select the credit card for that particular customer. Now, what will happen here is that when I go in to put these items in, this is all standard order processing. Nothing changes about that order process from your perspective. Now, if you're a company that imports or integrates their orders in from another system, we would love to talk to you about that, because we do have the connecting tools so that you would be able to pre-authorize the credit cards when those credit cards come in, when those orders come in and are integrated, as well as any situation where you might be coming in here and entering the orders directly. And then you would just be pre-authorizing the credit card. And what pre-authorizing means is that you would be able to reserve the funds on the credit card. And then once that order is shipped, then you would be able to go in and capture that credit card. In that case, if you wanted to add something in later, you would be able to do that by allowing an additional percentage to be added in at the time of capture. So, for example, sometimes people will estimate the freight and they will reserve that entire amount. And then once they actually invoice the actual order, they might substitute in that actual freight and complete the transaction. But what's nice about this is that you're finding out now by reserving the funds whether that customer has the funds available for this order prior to going through the process of shipping and then invoicing that particular transaction. So this window is a window that we add into the system, and it gives you the ability to track things like a default card if the customer has one, a default card for a particular shipping address, or just by using the magnifying glass, you'd be able to see all the cards that have been set up for this customer. You can also say new card, and if the customer says, oh, I want to use a completely different card, or it's a new customer, you could even get a new credit card right on the fly as you're doing the transaction. What you'll see here is the only thing that we store in the system, which is referred to as a token. and visually will show you the last 4 digits of the credit card number. That means that nothing is stored in the accounting system at all, not even those 4 digits. It's just a representation of what's called the token. And this will provide you with a completely secure environment for you to process your electronic payments. So if I select this card and I tell the system we want to pre-authorize it, then what it's going to do is process that pre-authorization or that reservation for that amount against the customer's balance. And if you've ever stayed in a hotel or purchased something in that manner, you'll see that it will show as a reservation on your credit card, but it won't finalize or capture until the transaction is actually complete. So you'll see here in our companion window here that we've pre-authorized the credit card. It has been approved, and you'll see that the green checkbox indicates that status. If for some reason this was declined, 2 things would happen. One, you would get a big red X here instead of a nice green checkbox. And you would also see that the transaction would be moved into a batch ID that you can define called a failed batch. And so this way you can deal with any credit cards that are not processed properly in their own environment. You don't have to go picking through maybe a batch of 20 or 30 or more orders to figure out if there were any that failed. They'll automatically move into their own batch, so they could be easily drilled down into and corrected so that the order could proceed. And the other thing is that this blue field, which is consistent with the dynamic GP system, and then the analogous side on the Business Central side, you would be able to drill down here and see the details. Now, everything about this is good because it was approved and everything like that. You can see some details here. But for example, if this credit card was declined for some reason, this is where you would see some details about why it was declined, whether it was overbalanced, it was a mismatch on one of your required components like the zip code or the CVV. So depending on how you have your system configured, you would see a very specific message here if one of these credit cards was declined. So once this transaction is processed, then I'm going to sort of fast forward to shipped, and now we're going to transfer to an invoice. When I transfer this order into an invoice, what you'll see is one of 2 things. For the purposes of our demo, I've made everything manual, mainly so that I can walk you through every process. But you could have had the credit card captured upon the transfer from the order to the invoice. Now, sometimes customers will have additional information that they want to do to add at the time of invoice. For example, some customers don't know the freight unless the order is actually shipped, and they want to add that in. Or maybe there was some type of miscellaneous charge that you wanted to add in at this time. You could add those costs in here, and then you could settle the credit card at that time. So you'll notice in my case, I'm still just pre-authorized. I haven't captured or actually processed the sale yet, in case I had one of those items that I wanted to add on to the particular invoice. The other thing that'll happen is if you can't fully ship this invoice this order, so maybe there was a quantity of 5, you can only ship 3, 2 are going to ship separately. This is only going to capture the sale for what is actually invoiced, and it will either refresh that authorization, or you can manually refresh that pre-authorization for that remaining quantity, so that when it's ready to transfer, it will also follow those same guidelines. So if I wanted to capture the sale and actually process the credit card, I would just do that, indicate I'm ready to capture and process it. And what it'll do is go through, it'll process the credit card, it will approve or not approve, depending on the situation. It'll automatically create that payment in the cash receipt side. So in this case, this invoice will now post into the accounting system paid in full with that credit card payment attached to it. And you'll also see the date and time of the capture, and certainly you would see if there was any issue with the subsequent capture of that credit card. So now the card is actually charged, the invoice is considered paid in full, and this invoice could be saved and then posted into the system and then shown again, as a paid in full invoice with that. You also have the ability to use multiple credit cards. If a customer had, let's say, a situation where they wanted to use more than one credit card, they would be able to do that at that time. And if you had a scenario where they wanted to pay with an ACH payment instead of a credit card, that would be something you could authorize as well. And what credit cards you decide to offer and whether you allow an electronic payment or not is completely up to you and your setup. And then those options would be available in this window. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this and close this window. Now, the other option that we talked about using the electronic payment processing for is when you want to pay, let's say, or a customer wants to pay an invoice that's already been processed and posted. And in that case, you would simply use the cash receipt journal or the cash receipts entry window, depending on if you're in BC or in GP. And then you would, in this case, you could create a batch for those transactions. And then what will happen here is as I go through and select my customer, I would just follow the same guidelines. They're going to make a payment. They're making it for $500 and they want to pay an overdue invoice. But now what I would do by choosing credit card is make the selection of what credit card they want to use, because I certainly want to authorize the credit card before I go applying it against an invoice. So I can put in the credit card, I can process the credit card, and this will immediately charge the card for the $500. So the first step would be make sure the card is valid, make sure the transaction is approved, and then I could go in and apply that against the, let's say, overdue invoice that they wanted to make a payment on. Now this is taken care of. The payment is in, the invoices are applied, and it's ready to go. Now, if the customer at any time, either from within the payment side of the sales transaction we saw earlier, or this transaction here, you can immediately or even set up to automatically email them a credit card receipt, or if you really just send them on the fly, if the customer requests them, you can make an invoice, and actually a credit card receipt here and send that to the customer at any time. So there's always a receipt available. It is something you could automate and have emailed to them, or just can print it out and email it out to your customer. And again, the batch here would just be posted, and then that payment would be applied against the customer's transaction, and also then would be charged against their credit card. Now, from that perspective, once credit cards are processed, you always have the ability to look up those electronic payments. You could look them up at a customer level. You could look them up at the credit card level. So if you're reconciling your MasterCard or a particular credit card during the day, or even at the end of the day or the month, you could come in here and look at the credit card transactions, what transactions have happened. Maybe you want to just look at anything that's been captured. You can say, just give me captures and voids, for example, and you can come into this window and really filter down to a particular type of card, just MasterCard, just Discover, just ACH, just the date range, just a particular merchant, if you have more than one merchant. So you could come in here and even get right down to the customer and just see their transaction for the month. And then also be able to fully drill down on any of these transactions, right back to the document number, and then also see the capture, the amount, etc. So in full detail and with drill down, you have the ability to reconcile those credit cards. On a daily basis, the system can auto settle for you so that it's settled since the transaction closes the day. You would be able to run reports from the payment processor, and you would be able to get all of that information out of the system at any time in order for you to be able to have full access and reconciliation capabilities of your credit card as well as your ACH payments. So the other tool that we wanted to take a look at today is our customer invoice portal. And the customer invoice portal, again, kind of looks at that credit card capability in a little bit different manner. So for example, if you wanted to set up a customer to be, to use that electronic customer portal, we could just select the customer here. And you'll see in the additional window on the GP side that you do have the ability to add some additional information here. So if I said, okay, the customer is enabled for the invoice portal, maybe some customers don't want an electronic delivery and payment method. They just want you to send them their invoice and then they're going to send you a check. You could come in here and enable the customer invoice portal, let the system know where the email address is coming from as far as sending them the invoice. And then also you could send that invoice sample or invoice PDF out to the portal for them to be able to see the actual invoice. You also do have the ability to generate an invoice using the tool, which we're going to see as well. So when the customer is set up for the customer invoice portal, what will happen is an invoice will not be processed with a credit card within the system. So for example, just to illustrate that, I'm just going to create an invoice for that particular customer. And we're going to post it, and then I'm going to show you that process. Now, again, everything that I'm showing you here can be done electronically. I would like to show you the steps here in the demo, so that's why I'm taking it one step at a time. But everything that I'm showing you here could be done in an automated way if you wanted to automate some of these processes. So the invoice has the item or items on it, a couple of items on here. And then I can save the invoice. And then I'm just going to go out and post this invoice in the system. So now I have a valid invoice. I know it's not going to be changing. I posted it. Now it would just be on the customer's account like any other invoice. And then, like I said, either on an automated or in my case, I'm doing it in a manual way just to show you. We've got this release manager window that will show you all of the available invoices and also any invoice that's been sent to the portal, excuse me. So if I wanted to see all of the invoices that have been sent, if I wanted to see the ones that have been that are available to be sent, I can see them here. I could mark them all. I could just mark the one I want to send. Or again, I could have had this automated so I don't do any of it. But I'm going to select the invoice that I've just created and I'm going to choose process. That will run through the process of exporting it out of the Dynamics GP system and sending it up to the portal. And then the other thing that that's going to do is that's going to create an email that goes to the customer that will tell them that an invoice has been sent. So this is the email that the customer receives. And it says, okay, that invoice has been sent. Here's a copy of the invoice, the line items on it. Now this could be, this one is coming from the portal, which is powered by a tool called Invoice Ninja. If you said, whoa, I would like them to receive the invoice the way we've designed it in our ERP system, so in Business Central or in GP, you would just be able to mark that at the customer level and say, send them the Dynamics GP or the Dynamics CC invoice, not one that's designed by, let's say, the tool, the portal tool. So it's really up to you. So this is the invoice, it's got the items on it, and the customer has a copy of the invoice. Now, in that case, the customer could put that into their system, pay you with a check, and that could be the end of it. However, they also have this link, and then I can click here to view the invoice. Now, I'm going to show you two different ways the invoice can be viewed. Now, if this was the customer, they could go in, click the view invoice, and they would be brought to a system that would be configured the way you want it to. It would have your logo up here. It might be different colors. It might have a different configuration. But what you'll see here is the invoice that the customer has been sent. And from here, the customer has choices of making a payment. Now, if you've allowed them to pay by a credit card, but if they pay by an ACH, you give them a discount. You could process it that way. If you said, well, it's actually the other way around, the cost of credit cards is pretty high these days, so we'll allow them to pay by ACH. But if they want to pay by credit card, there is a 3% additional fee. You can do that as well. If you only offer a bank transfer and no credit card, that's fine. So it's a completely configured process here on what you would like your customers to have available to them. The other thing that's nice is that they can come in here and see any of their outstanding invoices, and they can see whether they're paid or not, or unpaid, and also could view them paid. If they wanted to see that paid in full invoice, they can do that. The third thing that's really cool about this is that if, let's say they weren't set up right or whatever might happen, and maybe they just want to use this portal to see their outstanding invoices, if they sent you a payment in your Dynamics system and we process it or you process it over there, it will update over here as being paid. So even if you said, well, this is pretty cool, however, we really just want the customer to use it strictly as a portal with no payment capability, we want to keep our payment methods the same, they could still come out here, and once that payment was processed against an invoice that was sent here, then it would update with that same paid status and give them that same information, whether the payment was initiated by them in the portal, by you in your portal, which we're going to see next, or even back in your accounting system. It will still update these invoices as showing paid in full. So this can be a really powerful tool for a customer to give them that self-service capability, but also not have any confusion about paid and unpaid invoice. Now I'm going to go over to the portal that you would see as the company sending the invoices. So what you're going to see here is a dashboard that'll show you all the active payments that are happening, any invoices that are coming up due or paid, recent payments, anything that you have in the system here that has to do with any of your customers or clients, you can look at those. So when you're looking at invoices, you're seeing any customer that has an invoice. You could certainly filter by a particular customer, but you're going to be able to see everything. Now, what's nice here is that sometimes customers, they don't want to pay in the portal. They might tell you they want to pay in the portal. And again, maybe you don't want to have any credit card processing within your system. You want to do it all outside the system. If that's the case, you could just log into your own portal, use this little ellipsis, the 3 dots here, and enter a payment for this customer as you're going through here. And I can choose the payment type. What credit card is it? Is it ACH? Was it just a credit card? I can put the credit card information in here, and then I can save that payment. So I can process that payment from here, or I can process the payment from within the accounting system, or the customer can process that payment themselves. And then that's going to process the payment. It's going to also now make that payment available to integrate into your accounting system. So you've got a lot of different choices to go through as you're using these tools in order for you to be able to process these payments electronically. Meanwhile, once that payment is processed, the customer is going to receive another email that says, good news, we got your payment. They're going to see a copy of the invoice now with that payment applied against it, balance due 0. So they're also going to get confirmation, regardless of the source of that payment, that payment has now been made in full. So going back over to the accounting system, you do have the ability then to go in and process those payments. And you can do that, again, automated on a regular basis. Or I can say once a day, I like to control the import. I'm going to import that in, and I'm going to bring that into the system. Once I do that, I'm going to see that I have a batch or I have a cash receipts journal waiting for me, depending on the tool that you're using, in the system that has that information in it. So I'm going to see a batch here that has CIP today's date, and now it's got my payment in here. And if I do a print here and look at the edit list of it, not only will I see that $900 payment, oh, excuse me, I'm going to put this back on the standard instead of the, a little bit easier to read. And I'll see that I have the, the payment processed properly with the credit card. And then I also have the invoice that it was applied against, whether it was one invoice, multiple invoices, I'm going to be able to see that. And now I would just post this and it would process that payment, post it against the customer's account. Now, in the background, we're keeping track of everything that's going on here. So the customer invoice portal event log is going to show you everything we just did and more, as you can see here. It's going to say, okay, we posted the historical invoice, meaning we wanted to post the invoices and make sure they were finalized before we put them up on the portal for the customer. Great, we did that. After we did that, then we imported the payments were received for this vendor, this customer, or maybe 10 different customers, and then it completed. If I expand this on the chevrons here to the multi-line view, then I'm going to see, as usual, additional details. What invoices were brought in to be paid? What customer was? What payment was the payment number that we assigned to it when we brought it in? So from the back, sort of the back of the house perspective, you always have that ability to see that inquiry and see that information about the flow of that information throughout the system. And again, the payments that are updated are all tracked back in the system. You can review those payments and see all the payments that have been made. You can also see all the outstanding invoices here in your portal. And then the customer as well would have their own portal that would just, of course, see their own transactions. And they could see what's outstanding, what payments do they need to make, are there any credit memos, what's the status of their account. So it gives you that ability to really get that payment process streamlined. And even if you said, we're not doing credit cards right now, we're only doing ACH payments, everything is exactly the same. And also what's nice is that even if you said, I'd love to offer ACH, but I really don't want any of that electronic payment processing in my accounting system, you could use a tool like the customer invoice portal to just deliver that to the customer, have all of that done outside in a secure portal, and then have the integration of those transactions back into your system. So you're still really streamlining everything you're doing in the system, but you're not having all of that process built into your system. So it's truly an option on how you want to go. I'm just going to close out here and then go back to our slideshow. So that was our demo for today. And if we go to our final slide, you'll see from our perspective, if you would like more information about our products, these or any of our other products as well, please reach out to Dawn. She's our channel sales manager. And you can also reach her through channel management at bluemoonisv.com. You can also go out there to see what other products we have available. And I believe that we may be doing more webinars together with your group, which would be great. And then we would be able to show you more of our products and more of that functionality. So thank you very much. We appreciate your time.